In the women's bantamweight division of UFC Fight Night, you got Hailey Cowan coming in at 7-2, taking on newcomer. Well, they're both newcomers, really. Jamey Lyn-Horth, who comes in at perfect 5-0, fighting out of Canada. Now, they're both newcomers at the UFC. Hailey Cowan won barely by split decision over Claudia Leite at Dana White's Contender Series. So she has yet to fight the UFC as well. Now, Horth is a slight favorite, believe it or not. So let's figure out why. Cowan, 1 inch taller at 5'8". Both have a 67-inch reach, so it's equal there. Cowan fights left-handed. Horth fights right-handed. So we'll see. You know, southpaws are used to fighting right-handers because most fighters are right-handers. But this could be a different experience for Jamey Lyn-Horth, and we'll see how it goes for her in that setting. Now, what we know about Cowan is that she lands just 1.7 significant strikes per minute. This is in one fight, so not as big of a deal. She had a takedown, one takedown in that fight, so she lands one takedown over the course of 3 rounds. And it should be noted that these are the toughest fights to predict because you don't have a lot of stats in 5, 10, 20 fights to look at where the fighters are solid, and they usually keep those stats, especially when you get to 5, 10 fights in. So in these situations, not many stats to look at here. So as we flip over to Jamey Lyn-Horth, you know, she's 5-0, but recently, back in 2021, went to LFA 120 back in December of 2021. So it's been almost a year and a half since she's been in the octagon, but she beat Mayra Quantaria Rodriguez by rear naked submission. In her 6 wins, she's won 3 by KO. 5 wins, 3 by KO, 2 by submission. So toughest fights to predict. That's why last week we started 1-3 and then finished 7-0 throughout the rest of the night, right? Because as the fights go on and there's more stats, easier to predict. So these are always tough predictions, but I like Jamey Lyn-Horth to come in and get the victory. She's undefeated for a reason. 5-0, 5 finishes, just like in the fight after this. You have another fighter that's 6-1, all 6 wins with finishes. So I'm going back to back here, beginning with this one, taking the newcomer. So Jamey Lyn-Horth out of Canada will get the win here, welcome herself into the UFC. She is a slight favorite, but again, no one really knows. But in my opinion, she wins this fight to move to 6-0 here in the women's bantamweight division, UFC Fight Night.